Welcome to the Secrets Women Keep podcast. I am your secret keeper and confidant, Lauren White. I'm a qualified counsellor and sexologist, facilitator of all things turn on, author of Permission, and a witty, highly intuitive lounge room dancing introvert. I help you as an exceptional woman in entrepreneurship to see, love, and trust all the parts of yourself, especially the unseen. Let's pull back the curtain, light the candelabra, and lift the veil. These are the secrets women keep. This episode is brought to you by my deep, powerful, and private 6-month one-to-one process where you unveil from everything that's holding you back from being and feeling more. Through my unwavering support and personalized guidance, you will finally become the fully expressed, sovereign, and integrated woman you know you can be. Hello, and welcome to the Secrets Women Keep podcast. I am your host and confidant, Lauren White, and today we have a completely sovereign guest. Her name is Julia. Julia and I worked together this year in a deep one-to-one process, and I put the call out for guests recently for the podcast, and she stepped forward and said in an email, I would love to come on. I would love to share what it was like to experience such profound shifts. I want other women to be in on this. And that obviously got a resounding yes from me. Like, yes, wonderful. Let's share the wealth of what it is that we learn in private spaces. Now, what we're going to talk about today, it's going to be us selecting the parts that feel safe to share. Now, not everything will be revealed because that's not what we're about. We're about being selective and discerning about what pieces are going to be the most beneficial for you to hear, for you to be a witness to what it's like to step into a one-to-one process with me as your confidant. So Julia stepped forward because she was choosing to be supported. She was at a point where she recognized that she could only get so much further on her own, and she was really ready to look at and examine the discomfort, if I can be so honest, of looking at her role in her interactions in her life. Now, before I go on and on and on and on, I'm going to introduce our very special guest, Julia. Julia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to just be able to share with you. It's amazing.
Yes. So you've just used the word excitement, which I was going to tap into in this episode. Now, I've got goosebumps running down my legs, and that's always one of my really special signs that something is in alignment and that there's magic happening. It's just one of my special sensations. But the reason why that word does so much is it means that something magical is about to unfold. And interestingly enough, when I asked you on that first call, our connection call to just see if we were a good match to work together, you used the word excitement. And when you used that word, I went, it's happening. You were excited about learning more about yourself. And I was wondering, has that excitement stayed with you even though we've since completed our process?
Oh, absolutely. It's stayed with me. But when I say the word excitement to you now, I say it in a totally different intention and a totally different feeling to what I said on that first call. And as you were saying that, I was actually nodding, going, oh my gosh, I remember saying, yeah, I feel excited, but not actually knowing what that meant to me. Whereas now when I say, I feel excited about this, it's a totally different feeling, and I can actually direct it. Whereas before I was just like, yeah, I'm excited. I don't know what for, but let's do this.
So there was a degree of just not knowing, like using that word, but not being fully cognizant of the meaning of it at that time. It was, I don't know, maybe it was appearing a little bit prematurely in a way. It's like it's there, but it's not fully formed yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely was the case for me.
Mm. Mm. Julia, would you be able to describe to the listeners, what you were feeling when you heard that call to apply to work with me? We started off in a conversation on the Instagram DMs, love a good conversation in the DMs, and and proceeded with the connection call. Can you just tell me what is it that, how were you feeling at that point, and what is it that you were looking for?
Honestly, I think I got to a point, I think, as you said in the opening, that I need a little bit more help than what I currently have. I felt like I had done some great work on myself, but I needed to move forward in my life journey. And I really was at the stage where I was ready to see who I could become. And I think that was a massive catalyst in signing up to work with you, is that I wanted more. And obviously, as I've worked with you now, it's more, which is incredible. And now I see that word so differently. But I wanted to more for myself. I felt like I was I don't like the word rut. But you know what happens when I try and find lots of words that aren't the ones I'm thinking of at the time, and it gets a little bit on a bit of a tangent. So we'll go with rut. And I wanted more for myself. I wanted to step out of that condensed feeling, and I wanted to be able to be, as corny as it sounds, my true self. And I needed some help to find that and to have the confidence to step out in that person, because I was just this really shrunken version of who I wanted to be.
And what was that costing you, being that shrunken version of who you wanted to be?
Oh my gosh. I think it was costing me emotionally freedom. And I think that was such a huge thing. I really craved that ability to express myself emotionally, or and not be concerned about the judgment of others. And I think that as we went through the process, that became something that just kind of dropped away from me, was what other people thought of me. Was I doing this at the right time or the right place? And that huge, is that okay with you? Or I hope that's okay. That was how I was existing. I was existing by asking permission, rather than granting it to myself.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. There was that, on that first call, you said something that has just stuck with me, just stayed with me. You said, this is quote unquote, I adjust myself based on what I think other people see me as. I have a strong inner critic. I feel like I'm trying to keep this mask on and then take it off and then put a different one on. And that just stayed with me. You said that months ago, and it was almost like I got a somatic reaction from you saying that. I just felt exhausted. I felt like in the moment, I was just like, oh my God, like that must be exhausting, constantly asking for permission, constantly asking, am I okay? Is this okay? I'm sorry, being apologetic for who you are or what you said or what you did. Like, I don't know. I feel exhausted.
Yeah.
What was it like to live? What was it like to live that?
I honestly, when you read it now back to me, I go, did I really say that? Because I feel like that is definitely, again, another cliche, like past me, but it really, really is. As you know, we've had these conversations, and yeah, it was exhausting. And particularly, I think you've just pulled out some of the key things there that even when you say them, I go, oh, no, that's that's like something I feel like I can't even relate to anymore. But the fact that I still get those feelings where I think, oh my gosh, that was me, shows me how far I've come in my journey. Because as you say, I would apologize for everything. And some of my friends, one of my beautiful girlfriends used to say to me, stop apologizing. It's okay. You're not invading someone's space by being here. You haven't said the wrong thing by voicing an opinion that might be different to someone else. And I've learned that so much along our journey. And some of those things that I used to have to check myself to make sure I didn't say, oh, sorry, or is that okay? Or does that make sense? At the start of the process, I used to check myself with those in my day-to-day life. And now I don't check myself because I don't say them. Which is so transformative, which is one of my favorite words. But as you say, you felt exhausted hearing that from me, and it was exhausting to live in it. Every time you go through a social situation or a new social situation, sometimes just little things where you would come away from it feeling exhausted because you'd constantly question, have I said the wrong thing? Have I done this? Have I done that? And you'd come home from anything just going, oh my gosh, I'm absolutely haggard, because you would feel, yeah, so critical of yourself. And it was really, really draining and limiting, because then you don't want to go and do new things. And particularly for the stage I was at in my life, if I wasn't going out and doing things and meeting people, well, that was kind of defeating the purpose of where I was at in my life.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I wanted to be someone who was stepping out and doing things that I loved and that brought me joy and pleasure and delight. And I was really stuck in this little spot where I was going, I can see what I want, as in, you know, the little things that I wanted to be doing for myself. But then in the other hand, I guess, or the other side, I had that part of me that was so deeply ingrained that was saying, but what if you do that and someone doesn't like it? Or what if it's unsuccessful?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, I believe now that I think about it, honestly, like even thinking about that first call and just hearing you read through that again, I go, oh, like I still get the feeling of what it was like to be back there, to be condensed and small and not able to be an open person. And I could see everything that I wanted when I started the process. I could see myself. Well, no, no, that's not true. I couldn't see myself where I am now. And I think this is on your testimonial, that on my testimonial, sorry, that said, I could see, I really wanted to work with you. And I thought, oh yeah, like she's amazing. And I, you know, had listened to the podcast, I'd seen posts, I'd listened to podcasts with you with other people as well. But I did think, yeah, she sounds great, but what's she really going to do for someone like me who feels this way?
Yep.
And that was yeah, a part of me that now when I look back, I really want to give that woman a pat on the back, because it was a huge thing. I was excited, as I said, but I really couldn't see myself where I am now. I knew what I wanted in, I think we talked about this a lot through my process, in physical things that I wanted or that I wanted to do. But now I know that all of that comes with having that ultimate sovereignty within yourself,
Yes.
not the physical things that you can physically gain from being in a different space.
Yes. Okay. Yes. All right. How did you access that though? How did you? Okay. To give a little bit of backstory, the first call, the first session, you were a bit shaky. You were shaky not in terms of your commitment, but you were shaky in your interactions. You were your mind was so preoccupied with, what did they think of me? Like, what should I do next? Should I reach out? Should I call them? I want to invite them over. I want to see them this weekend. Like, it was very much like this, you had this insatiable need, like
Oh my
to
gosh,
belong,
yeah.
to be seen, to be validated, to, all of those things that we all naturally seek as humans. There's nothing wrong with any of that. What I was witnessing in you, though, was that was costing you, because you were never really in your body. You were never really in your sovereignty. You were never really feeling like you belonged in yourself. It was always dependent on someone else's feedback, or whether they contacted you, or how they responded to you. And yeah, so in the beginning, we start off shaky. That's completely natural, but things just started shifting. So can you tell listeners, what do you feel really allowed for those shifts from shakiness, neediness, worrying what other people thought, to, this gradual progression to sovereignty?
I think the key word that you've used there is gradual, because I think obviously this is a process and it doesn't have a beginning and an end. And I think that might have been at the start what I was looking for, was that I expected to come out the end, this shiny new version of myself, and kind of would be on this pedestal being like, hey, here I am, like all shiny and polished. And I think what I realized was that it is a process, and that the little steps should and can be celebrated. And it was probably when I think other people began to notice how open I was, and I began to feel really comfortable around different groups of people as well. I was finding that when I didn't apologize for being myself, that I actually began to slot into situations more easily. And I would come home from things feeling really positive and going, that was really great. And I felt like I had done my new self justice. Even every little thing that I learned with you that I put into practice, it actually worked. And I think that was really big for me, that I could sort of change myself in this gradual way and feel the results, feel more confident. And I think when we talked about how I want to show up, I remember that being a really massive conversation. And
Mm.
I remember us talking about how you enter a room, and I feel like that was a
Oh,
really,
yes.
yes.
That was, I was going to say episode one. That was the first, episode one. That was the first, I'm in podcast mode, obviously. That was the first session. That was the first session. That was honestly half an hour into the first session. It was that visualization of, all right, when you walk into a room, how does that sovereign Julia stand? How does the Julia that feels unapologetic walk into a room? How does she hold herself?
Yeah, and I think what is so important for me now, and to pass that on to other women as well, is that you are always that person. You
Mm-hmm.
are always that, you have that essence about you. And I think we talked about essence quite a lot.
Yeah.
And you have that within you the whole time. It's just shrouded by these things that, whether it is brought on in your personal life, whether it's brought on by societal expectations, this thing that kind of closes you off and makes you think that your essence shouldn't be projected, that you shouldn't live in your ultimate sovereignty.
Mm.
And realizing that you've got it inside of you all along, you just have to have the strategies to be confident to step out in it. And that, when I realized that in my process, that was huge for me. And once you get there, oh my gosh, you never want to go back,
No.
because
Spoiler alert.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that was a huge point for me. And I think as well, just when I was able to realize that I didn't have to check myself, I wasn't having to think, oh, I just apologized for something, or I was realizing I stopped asking for permission. And sometimes that was of myself as well, because I have all these things that I love to do. Like, we talk about one of my big ones, which is the sun on your back while you're sitting by the beach, or having that extra coffee. And I think a combination of guilt was something that I worked through as well, like guilt of giving myself permission to do things that I enjoyed. That really combined with that neediness to create this big ball of tension. And yeah, it was a totally exhausting lifestyle and existence, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yes, completely exhausting. And you're speaking now into contraction, like being in a ball, being tight, being the opposite of open, which is what you really started to tap into in the process, was starting to open up. And I was wondering, some people might be scratching their heads going, what the fuck is ultimate sovereignty? Like, what the fuck is that? And not, how do I get some of that? Sounds amazing, right? But I was just wondering, what does it, like, what does ultimate sovereignty mean to you? What is it?
Oh my gosh, what a big question. Like, how long
Big.
have we got? Honestly, I think we were actually just talking before we started recording about the title. And I said to you, I was like, boom, what a title. But I do recognize that other people who haven't realized what that is might be scratching their heads, being like, cool title, but what does that even mean? Why are these women going on about it? So I think, honestly, it's stepping into the essence of who you truly want to be. And I think a couple of the key words that I know that I connected with throughout the process was peace. I absolutely think that while being in your ultimate sovereignty is exciting, it is transformative. I think peace is, while it's on a different level, it brings all of that together.
Yeah.
It's being at peace with who you are, and acknowledging that you can't control the reactions or responses of other people. And I know, feel like I'm pulling one of my own quotes out here, and I could have it worded differently, but responding really well despite the circumstance. Does that one ring a bell to you?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah. And being able to carry that through in everything that you do. I think we talked about this towards the end of our sessions, intention. And I think that's so much a part of being so sovereign within yourself. I think it's a appreciation of yourself, and it's having purpose and intention that serves you.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yes.
And
1,000 times yes.
doing everything with a purpose is so liberating. Every little thing that you do, we do things for others, but before we can actually start to be a good friend, a good partner, a good daughter, you've got to be able to have intention and purpose for yourself first.
Yeah.
And that was definitely something that I think a lot of us skate over. We go, oh, well, I'll just deal with how I feel about that later, because right now I've got someone else in front of me who's asking me for things or who I need to do this for. And I think just really being able to give yourself what you need first. And I think maybe, no, I know as women that we don't put ourselves first. And again, it sounds like such a cliche, but it's so true. That we are always putting the needs of others before us, whether that is children, whether it's our partner, whether it's our friends, whether it's our work. And we say, oh, but I couldn't possibly because I'm just so busy, or I've got this on and this on. And I think for me, recognizing that actually I wasn't going to be able to serve any other parts of my life without looking at myself first and saying, hey, do you know what? It's Julia that is important in all of this. And putting my time and energy into myself, I feel like that's your ultimate sovereignty when you bring all of that together and have that intention, that purpose, that peace, and that, I'm going to say embodiment, but I don't know if that's the right word. Embodiment of self.
Yep.
And just engaging with those things that bring you joy. I think that is your ultimate sovereignty.
Yeah.
So, and I'm done here.
Yes, yes. And I think listeners will really connect with it the way that you put it. Like, it really is, I really feel that sovereignty is coming home to yourself and belonging to yourself first. Like first. And then the way that you move through this world is with intention, is by being responsive rather than reactive. Like, big difference between those two.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There are so many paradoxes, and I love a good paradox. It's just, I live for it. You know, I'm a big Oscar Wilde fan, and he's like the king of paradoxes. But what I want to say is that the paradox is, you look after yourself first, you come home to yourself, you belong to yourself first, then your energy is less leaky, and then whatever it is that you choose to emit from yourself, you choose to put out there, is really clear, it's really potent, there's no like spaghetti arms everywhere. It's just really, you get to channel what it is that you want to give, what it is, how it is that you want to serve. To use one of your words, you do things with purpose, and it's just clarifying and is so much more powerful than, I'll be everything to everyone. I've got this going out here and this going out there and this going out. It's just really depleting of moving through life in that way. So yeah, the sovereign woman belongs to herself first. And the visualization I always get when it comes to sovereignty is almost like you're sitting there on a stage in a beautiful chair or throne. Feel free to throw in some velvet.
Definitely a throne, and it was
definitely a throne. And it's almost like you've got the people in your life around you, and you can access them, and you can reach out to them, and you can speak with them. But there's a boundary there. There's a really beautiful, invisible, energetic boundary there. So you're really selective and discerning about how you do that, when you do that, why you do that. That's what sovereignty is to me. There's intentionality behind everything. And interestingly enough, being intentional, it takes a little bit of energy in the beginning, but it saves you so much energy from I'll just be reactive. I'll just do this thing now. I'll just do this thing for someone else. Like, you put in a little bit more energy in the beginning and get used to being intentional and get used to slowing it down, because everyone I work with, we all move fast. I like attracts like. We're generators, we're out there, we're delivering, we're doing all this stuff, and we need the medicine of just slowing down a little bit, not trying to be everything and do everything for everyone. And we put that initial effort in, and it just saves us tons.
Absolutely. I think that part about the initial effort, and that it does take a lot out of you at the beginning, I think, because you are evolving and changing, and you do have to consciously think about, who do I want to be? And you do think about specific situations and things like that. You do select them very carefully. And that can be tiring at the start, to think about how to respond to different situations. And then as you move forward, you realize you're actually not doing that anymore, because you've put those, as you say, you're putting those boundaries in place to only select what lights you up, what you feel comfortable with. And doing that unapologetically does become part of life, and that is incredibly liberating. And obviously we do always care about what other people think. I mean, that's how we're wired. But definitely I've learned so much about who actually matters in that. I mean, of course, everyone's opinion matters, and everyone is more than entitled to their opinion. But for me, I was someone who took all of them on, whether it was someone I had just met, whether it was someone I'd known my entire life, whether it was someone I actually didn't really respect, or more so, they didn't really deserve my respect, I would still take on people's opinions. And that in itself is just crushing for who you are, because you start to take it on and believe more of what other people say than what that part of you that is inside, that essence, that sovereign part of you is saying. And I think, I love the idea of this throne, and I think I see mine a little differently, where I'm seated in that, but I see myself purposely selecting situations, individuals, even problems that I'm going to choose to confront. You don't have to do it all at once. And that's been really, really, really big. And I think the other thing with being so sovereign and being aware is that freedom that comes with it, and that not just freedom to be who you are, but it opens you up to do more and be more. And I think that more is something that I've learned to just love that word.
Great word. I love it. More.
And like, it's a word that's obviously been in our vocabs for our whole lives, but it's throughout the process, words that just mean so much more. There we go. To me now. And I think one of the ones I really want to mention, which has been a word that I've just connected to so strongly, is enough. And that means so much more to me now there's that more again,
Mm.
than what it did, 4 or 5 months ago, where you say, I know I am enough, but you also say enough of not putting myself first, enough
Yeah.
of putting up with X, Y, Z. And I think that has been a really, really powerful word for me that I've also just run with, and with a lot of the things that I do in life now. So
Mm.
yeah, that one's been incredibly powerful, and just transforming your thinking. So I think we talked about this a little bit, not saying the word but.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yes. Yeah, we started to put full stops on the end of things, or an alternative for listeners, if you're wanting to receive a little bit of the magic that Julia received. It was what she's speaking into is not saying da 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 da, I feel this way, but, and then trying to soften what you're saying or trying to make something easier on the ears for someone else, or trying to, I don't know, it's about diluting what you're saying using the word but.
Mm,
And
mm,
so two options that you've got, if you notice yourself saying but da 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 da, and then trying to wiggle out of something, is to either just play with putting a full stop at the end of a sentence as to how you feel, no but at the end, no needing to describe, no needing to write an essay after it. The other option is to put an and, like, and this, like, blah, 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 blah. And it's so simple. This is what I love about words. I'm such a word nerd, is that they are so powerful, and you use punctuation and words, just a very simple, ordinary, everyday words, just a little bit differently with that intentionality that we spoke into earlier. And you notice how it shifts your energy, how it allows you to drop into being someone else. Like the language that you use, the spoken word, the thoughts that you have is so influential and so powerful. So those small shifts, not always compensating, which is what someone who is in that apologetic mode does, but like there's always this explanation. You don't have to explain everything. You can just say something and put a full stop at the end, or go and blah 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 blah. I'm sorry I can't do this for you, and I can do this for you instead. Or no more buts. Like really watch them. Really watch them.
and I think for me, the but would come a lot with trying to align with maybe what someone else's opinion was. Like I would say, oh yeah, I actually, this. Oh, but I do agree with that. And it was all like the spaghetti arms and things like that. As you say, like
Yeah.
the power of the words is so incredibly important. And when you stop using the but, you also invite the right kind of people into your conversation. So,
Mm.
you're saying da 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 da, full stop. You shared something. And if that person is interested, they will clarify, oh, so you're talking about that, or they'll ask you questions. And that's, I feel, something I learned about inviting the right people in
Mm-hmm.
and avoiding that oversharing, which I know so many of us do, because we get wrapped up in the way that other people respond to us and the way that people can make us feel, that we overshare. And once you do that, you actually can't take that back.
Mm.
And I know I've sat and had some conversations with some of my beautiful girlfriends about this, and they've said, I used to do that. And it's amazing that what I've learned with you is something that has not only benefited me, but is extending to my friends and my family and the people that I care about. And that as well is incredibly uplifting, where people are seeing this part of me. One of my friends said to me a couple of weeks ago, "Oh, you're just so open, and I'm in awe of watching you." And that just meant, that's what you want. That meant the absolute world, is that I'm actually stepping out as a person that I'm so confident being, and that other people are seeing that is absolutely incredible. And I think it was really interesting when we started the podcast today that I was talking to you about some of the other guests that you've had on your podcast. And you were saying, oh my gosh, they're such powerhouses. And then you said, but so are you. And I went, yeah, I am. And past me.
And so are you. And so are you. Not but, and so are you.
And exactly, like, past me would have been like, yeah, they are powerhouses, but what place do I have? But that's not me. And now it is me. And I think that for women out there, or anyone who is thinking, I'm hearing Julia talk and I'm hearing what Lauren's saying and whatnot, I've come from a place where I felt like I was stopped. I was at a point in my life where I could see what I wanted, and I didn't think that I would be able to get there, and I couldn't get there on my own. But yeah, just the process that we went through, all of the things that we've talked about, they're all just a part of my life now. And it's made me, just so much freer in expression. And I love that I still have the same essence.
Yes, you do. Nothing's changed there. It's exactly the same. It's still your essence. That's really the key piece. And if I can slip another word in there that means a lot to me and why I do this work, is what I was hearing you say just then was about integration. It's like all these pieces and all these parts, they're in every woman, they're in every person. Sometimes they're just slightly hovering or floating outside of ourselves. And it's almost like we take our hands, we hold them out, palms open, and then we put them onto our body and we bring everything back in, or we hold everything in and allow everything to integrate so that all of those pieces and parts really beautifully slot in together. That's what I was hearing just now, is this sense of integration in you from putting in the effort of asking the questions, stepping into your ultimate sovereignty, doing things differently from the way that you knew how to do them. That's all that's going on with every person, is we just keep doing the same thing because we just don't realize there's another option. And there are other options for doing things. And what was so glorious about working with you was that you were, even though you didn't know what the other options were just yet, when you heard them, you were open to the options. That makes all the difference. Like that opening, you need to be open to doing things differently before you can be an open person, if that makes sense. And that's what made it such a joy to work with you, was that you would just take everything on board. You would run with it. You would do your own version of it, and it worked for you. And yeah, it was just such a seamless process. But I did have one question for you about the process. Was there any point where, because let's talk about the real stuff, was there any point where you kind of wanted to give up, or kind of wanted to throw your hands in the air?
I wouldn't say give up. There were definitely times where I would throw my hands in the air, probably literally, which would be accompanied by some choice words. But they were more times where that would be when I would reach out to you and I would say, da 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 da, Lauren, this happened, and recognize that it was okay to have bumps in the road. It's okay to make a mistake and go, okay, this has happened. What can I change next time I'm in this situation? And I mean, definitely, I think there were those times where something would kind of really blip for me in the process, and we'd be mid calls or whatever. And it took a lot for me to reach out to you because I knew it was there. And you would say, look, email me, call me, or like, message me. And I would go, oh, no, like Lauren doesn't need to hear about that. And I think the first time I did it was just a really weird, awkward situation that I emailed you about. And you're like, yes, thank you for emailing me. Let's talk through this.
Yeah.
And I think those times made me realize that you do, as much as you become this wholesome and, well, always a wholesome, capable woman, you need to choose when you need to say, hey, I'm kind of drowning a little bit on my own. And whether that is, that you reach out to, like when I was reaching out to you, or whether it is that you reach out to a close friend or, a counselor or something like that, that was a real turning point for me, because I did go like, oh, for goodness sake, like I'm, this shouldn't be happening because I'm working so hard on myself. Why do I still make mistakes? And I think realizing that it's okay to reach out when people offer you support, to take them up on that. And you'll soon learn really quickly if they're genuine, if they're there for a little bit of goss, or if they're there, if they say, yeah, I'll be there for you, and they don't mean it, you will ascertain that so quickly. And knowing that helps to build that beautiful circle of people in your life. And so, there were points where I definitely never wanted to give up, because I could feel the process. And I was so committed by, even a couple of sessions into the process, I was so committed to myself, which is something I never thought I would say. But I definitely had times where I threw my hands in the air, and realizing the importance of realigning yourself. And maybe that, well, I know for me, it was sitting, having a coffee at my favorite cafe with the sun streaming in through the window. Sometimes that's all it takes to realign yourself. And I think we're often looking for these big things to jump out to realign us, whereas that's not necessarily the case. Maybe it is just that you reach out to a friend and say, hey, I'm feeling a little bit this, or you don't even need to say how you're feeling. Say, hey, can I come for a cup of tea, or would you like to go for a walk? Some of those things, just doing something for yourself. And that's what helped me to step out of those times where I threw my hands in the air, was to go, okay, I think this is a Lauren thing, or I think this is one of my girlfriends kind of thing. And that really helped me to just be more in tune with my process and my journey.
Yeah. You've hit the nail on the head, and what you've just said happens with nearly all of my clients. I need to say to them a few times, email me, or send me a message, or I'm here for the bathroom stall moments. And it can take a little bit when you're used to being independent, confronting things on your own, holding in, wearing the masks, all of that, like putting on a certain front of capability. It can take that repetition to really trust that the support is there. And I love what you said about, it's almost like you take a bit of a risk with that support, and you can ascertain very quickly whether that support is genuine, whether it truly is there for you by how it is that they respond, or if they don't respond. So it's a really common experience in a process like this. There's a big difference between knowing support is there and actually accessing the support and keeping the momentum up, like really it's an act of letting go. It's an act of surrender. Like, I'm not going to hold anymore. I'm not going to I'm not going to just hold this in, even though it sounds so insignificant that this thing has happened. What am I making it mean? Why? It's not even a big deal. I won't message her. It's not a big deal. It's nothing. And it's so fascinating, Julia. Those small, nothing, ordinary, everyday scenarios are so representative of the bigger stuff, like the bigger situations and, difficulties that we can have. So I'm always emphasizing to my clients that nothing's too small. It's like, bring it forward, have a space to release it, vent it, get it out, express yourself, and then you can move on to the next feeling and the next sensation. So I love that I love that you stepped forward and you had the courage, because it takes courage to share that immediacy, what was going on in that moment. With me, it's such an honor. It's such an honor to be able to provide that for another woman. And I know it makes a difference. I really know it's not just the session time, which is incredibly powerful and really important. It's like the small threads of acknowledgement and expression and communication and connection that really enhance your process. So it's not so stop start. Oh, I've got to hold all this in because I won't talk to her for 2 weeks, or I don't have, I've got my next session in 2 weeks. I'll just hold it in. Like, no.
Yeah,
let's
exactly.
Keep it moving, keep it going. Like keep the momentum up. The momentum is a really important part. It doesn't matter how big, how small, it's the momentum that really does so much of the work, rather than stop, start, big outpouring. No, hold it in for 2 weeks, hold it in, like inhalation. It's like, and now you can exhale for 75 minutes. Like, no, that's not that you're not going to get the most out of that. So yeah, thank you for trusting me with those admissions that you had. It was such, they really flesh out how I can support you, and they let me in on your inner world so that the process can be even more tailored to you and what you need in any given moment.
Yeah. And I think because like some of all of them probably, when I would send out these emails or something to you, it is that reaction in the heat of the moment sometimes that I got comfortable sending you. And as you say, then that shows really some of those other things that we can then, work on in the sessions, rather than, having that half an hour of at the start of just debriefing what's happened over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and I think what's so like key in all of that as well is that you would say, okay, email me and I'll be there. Or, you would send a text or whatever. And I think that gave me the confidence. Well, I know it gave me the confidence that I could speak up and that I am able to and allowed to speak up when I don't feel comfortable with something, or when I would like to just maybe have a day to myself where I felt confident then to send, to contact someone else other than you and say, hey, I'm just not up for this today. Or if someone was to say, I'm here for you to support you if you, want to do this, or let's do this. That experience with you gave me the confidence to then accept what other people were offering, because, unfortunately, and I've definitely learned this, that some people's offers are not genuine for support and things like that. But I'm so grateful that I didn't let those people stop me from continuing to build connections and friendships and nurture those people who were truly supportive. And I think I learned that a lot through the process. And that, sometimes you would say to me, oh, a slightly late reply because da 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 da, which I think for a lot of people is so important to hear, that someone just hasn't replied because they're genuinely life. Life is just happening.
Yeah, that's it.
And I think that was is such an important part of the process, to quickly flick an email or to have those little affirmations. I remember I still go back sometimes and look at them. Even with my testimonial that's on your Instagram, I'm like, I said that. And it's still amazing that, you would send through things, even if after a session, I would be like, yeah, like, I think, I said some really positive things. I felt really good. To see things written down as well is just so powerful. And I think, learning more about journaling as an outlet as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because no one has to read that, and it can be whatever you want.
Yep.
And I think all of that combined together, they're tools for, those times when you're not sure how to reach out or who to reach out to. I feel like now I've got this toolkit of ways that, I can express myself and be confident to do so, which is just so amazing.
Yes. It's about all of the channels. It's about all the channels of expression. It's about the movement. It's about the breath. It's about the journaling. It's about embracing all of them and then stepping into that sovereignty and being selective about how and when you use them. You don't use them all at once. You don't sit there breathing, journaling, messaging someone and like dancing at the same time. You go, okay, what do I need right now? Like, what will be the healthiest outlet for me, or what's available to me? Okay, I don't have a confidant. I don't have a therapist. All right, well, I'll journal instead, or I'll dance through it, or I'll whatever means of expression, or I'll reach out to a really trusted friend. It's about knowing that you've got that toolkit and you can use it whenever you want, and no guilt if you drop the ball with one of them, all of them for a while. Doesn't matter. Just pick the ball up again. Just pick one of the tools up again. They're always there for you. And yeah, it's about remembering. And those tools allow you to remember who you are and tap into your essence. So yes. And on that note, I just really want to thank you, Julia. Thank you so much for sharing so powerfully today. It was such a joy. It's been such a joy to work with you, and you stepped forward every step of the way. You were all in, you were fully committed, and I'm just beyond honored and privileged to support you. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast. That is truly an honor for me as well. So beyond grateful for everything that we've experienced throughout the process. And I really, really hope that your listeners connect with what we've talked about today. That would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you sharing your story of moving from, feeling needy, feeling like you don't belong, wearing the masks, being shaky within your own identity and just out of touch with your essence, to gradually stepping into that fully, 100% stepping into that will really resonate with women that want the same thing, but maybe don't know how to articulate it yet. Like sometimes we know that there's a knowing that that's what we want, but we're not quite sure how to speak to it. And I think that's a real gift that you've given listeners today, is you've used the language that might feel a little bit far away from them right now, but now you've given the words and the experience to back up, oh, that's what I want as well. I just couldn't quite put it into words. So that's an absolute gift. Thank you so much. If you want to feel, experience, and embody your ultimate sovereignty just like Julia, and you're at the point of declaring that nothing is going to hold you back, that you're fully committed to making it happen for yourself, then I have good news for you. Places are now open for you to be fully supported in my 6-month one-to-one process. You, me, and 6 months so you can be seen, heard, and understood to become the truly exceptional woman you know that you are, but you just haven't accessed yet. To apply, go to laurenwhite.com.au/sessions, where you'll know exactly what to do next to take this turned on step for yourself.